his sleeve. From his winter White House in Mar-a-Lago, he has already exerted incredible power over the DC swamp via Save America PAC and the office of Donald Trump. We're going to talk about what makes Trump a political force to be reckoned with and how this might help him impeach Biden and deal a huge blow to the swamp in the US and beyond. Hello everyone, Justin here from Stillness in the Storm. Before we get started, head on over to stillnessinthestorm.com/donate to support our work. You can also become a member via Subscribestar to get exclusive benefits and suggest topics for our regular calls and upcoming content. The link's in the description. Now, I'm going to raise a series of points that will help you understand that Trump's greatest asset in the war against the deep state are his principles and the effect he has on those who hate him and those who love him. I'm going to compare him to several people who have had a similar effect throughout history. Trump is arguably one of the most popular political figures in US history, if not all of history, given the billions of people who are inspired by him the world over. Unlike other popular political figures like Obama, he's a true American patriot that loves the rule of law, cares about families, and wants to help everyone prosper, despite what the deep state lying media has told you. And anybody who's taken the time to actually research what Trump has done and the people that are around him that talk about him will know this. His genuine character and hold nothing back honesty make him a force to be reckoned with. When I think of Trump, I think of underdog characters like John Rambo and John Wick, who were merely trying to do the right thing and in doing so earned themselves the hatred and scorn of a corrupt world. In terms of persuasion, truth is the most powerful tool there is. There's a multitude of examples to prove this. One of those being the utter failure of Trump's second impeachment in 2021. Here, the corrupt forces lied, doctored evidence, and used unfair judicial practices, all of which only bolstered the image of Trump. Of course, you can use lies to persuade, but this only works if the truth isn't on display. That's why deceivers have to silence truth tellers to make the target believe in their lies. Now, psychologists and sociologists have known for years that the only way lies work is by controlling the narrative. As I showed you in the two-part series about propaganda, deceptive forces work very hard to manufacture the consent they need for their America Last deep state agenda. A good con man also knows how dangerous the truth is to their con, which is why Trump is hated by so many of the swamp creatures in DC and beyond. Mainstream media, big tech, and social media giants expend millions of dollars to shut down free speech because your voice of truth is more powerful than a legion of lying sycophants. Now consider that Trump is one of the loudest voices of truth out there exposing the globalist agenda for what it is. Thus, they had to shut him down. People are not only drawn to the truth, but they're also drawn to someone who's willing to fight for what's right, and in doing so, show the world who the real bad guys are. Yet again, Trump stands out as one of the most captivating figures in this regard. Now, there are two ways Trump transformed the political landscape since he entered the arena in 2016. First, Trump exposed the Republican in name-only RINOs within the Republican Party by and through his Make America Great Again agenda and American First initiatives. Second, and this was supported by the first point I just made, he exposed the corruption within the Democratic Party, and they completely reoriented themselves to essentially become the anti-Trump party. In this way, Trump lived rent-free in the minds of radical leftists and corrupt Democrats. The only way they were able to maintain any relevance at all is through their anti-Trump rhetoric and hatred, using every lie and trick in the book to paint a good man bad. But it didn't work. Not a whole lot of people are buying it. Now they can't even villainize him for being president, and they're losing clout with the people because of this at record pace. Here, Trump again demonstrates his influence. Now, in a lot of ways, Trump's methods resemble prolific figures in history, figures that have messianic qualities. By this I mean he's self-sacrificial, he's motivated to improve the state of the world, and he's willing to bear a cross of truth in a corrupt world for the benefit of each individual. This is similar to figures like Martin Luther King Jr., John F. Kennedy, and Ronald Reagan. And like those figures, Trump has also been villainized by the establishment. Now, the similarity to Jesus can't be ignored here. because Jesus was villainized by the Pharisees and Sadducees. So what we tend to look at when we look at history is that good people come on the scene. The corrupt actors that are in the higher echelons of government will basically use their manipulative power and influence over the masses to spread all sorts of lies and slander to delegitimize the person that's actually doing good in the world. I mean, if they could do that with Jesus, who was likely one of the most beloved, inspiring, and kind characters in history, then surely they'll have no problem doing it to Trump. Now, of course, Trump isn't a messiah. He isn't the second coming of Jesus. He's merely a guy who places principle above profit. He's willing to lose fame and fortune to do the right thing, which that alone makes him stand out of the DC swamp crowd. Now, this next point is interesting because for years, Hollywood employed the standard hero's journey movie formula to produce blockbuster after blockbuster, training us well to identify a hero and spot a villain. And all of this has come to bite Hollywood and the left in the ass in a big way because Trump's presence and character alone are enough to highlight the evil to those that oppose him. So that point's interesting because literally through Hollywood, we've been trained to identify, like I said, this good guy and the bad guy. Now that very training that we've imbibed through these Hollywood movies, we're using as an interpretive lens to see the difference between the character of Trump and what he stands to represent and these evil swamp rat creatures who are just fake smiles to the end of time. While it might sound like I'm just gushing over Trump, I raise all these points to make a greater point. He can exert more influence now than ever before, and this will help him positively reshape the face of American politics, moving away from corruption and theft to true patriotism and doing the right thing, even more than he already has. Think about this. The rumor of the patriotic party was enough for millions of Americans to pledge their initial interest. But Trump has other plans. Instead of creating a new political party, he's going to revive the Republican Party. Now that Trump isn't encumbered by the role of president, at least in the eyes of the public, he can inspire patriots with the same do what must be done spirit. These are people like Congresswomen Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert, who embody the same Davidian attributes, possessing an endless fount of courage to go up against the corrupt Goliaths of the establishment. 250 years ago, the spirit that created the greatest nation on earth was one where people were willing to sacrifice everything to do what was right. And they actually knew what right was. Again, this is a messianic Jesusonian quality. Jesus was interested in making the world a better place, and he used the technique of igniting the dignity and righteousness within the deplorables of that day, the lepers, prostitutes, and the last, who became the first in the so-called kingdom of heaven. We're experiencing that same type of revival spirit, another great awakening right now. The patriots of today who will realize the completion of the patriotic reformation of America will be people like Greene and Boebert, who don't come from the well-groomed ranks of the political elite like Liz Cheney. Their reward for fighting corruption is making the US a free and prosperous nation once again, not fame and fortune. All of this has global implications. Corruption and evil are real things. They have a certain aesthetic, taste, and smell. If you've never known anything but evil, it's hard to know what goodness tastes like. However, Trump's demonstrably good agenda, personality, and almost impeccable history helps draw the people out of Pluto's proverbial cave. By this I mean, people can now see what corruption really looks like, because they had 4 years of what a good president actually looks like. True righteousness, true warriorship, and true care for doing what's right is a well-nigh unstoppable force. This is what's going up against the forces of darkness in government right now. Before I tell you about what might be Trump's next big move, let's talk about protecting yourself from cell phone and Wi-Fi radiation. Did you know that cell phone manufacturers tell us to keep phones at least 10 millimeters away from our bodies? Check out this image from the iPhone manual. Look at what mobile device exposure can do to the brains of a 5-year-old, 10-year-old, and adult. By now, you probably know that by using a cell phone, you're exposing yourself to harmful radiation that's known to contribute to major health problems. But you can protect your health by using devices produced by EMF Harmonized. Using advanced Tesla-inspired technology, harmful radiation can not only be reduced, but transformed into healthy energy. The device fits right in the back of a cell phone over the antenna that broadcasts the harmful radiation. Get protected and support your health by going to stillnessinthestorm.com/EMF harmonized. You can use these devices on your cell phone, laptop, and other Wi-Fi devices. So what's the plan exactly? Well, some people believe that Trump might run for the House in 2022. That's the theory anyway. And if he does, he could easily win a seat in Congress, like no problem. From there, he could likely become the Speaker of the House if the Republicans win the majority. And with that power, he could impeach Biden and Harris, along with dealing major blows to the globalist establishment. As a matter of fact, the Speaker of the House has a lot of power and influence, more so than the president, especially if more candidates like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert run for office in 2022 and win their seats. Now, of course, we got to deal with these election irregularities that caused all the problems in 2020. And this requires each of us to do our part. I think Trump and the Patriots will work with us if we start forming powerful action committees in our communities. Now, Trump continues to garner millions of views when he speaks, in contrast to the vapid con man-like disposition of Biden and Pelosi. A recent poll showed that Pelosi is the most unpopular political figure in the country. Yeah, no kidding. Could you imagine the damage Trump could do to the swamp with a battalion of righteous patriots in the US House and Senate, supported by senators and representatives in state legislatures? Now, as broken as the government is now, the fact of the matter is we the people still have a lot of power. Imagine if hundreds of true patriots ran for offices across the land, from local councils, sheriff seats, state house and senates, and the US Congress. Never before has simply wanting to do the right thing and fight against the establishment been such a powerful and popular force. Now, if you're wondering if a president can run for Congress, the answer is yes. The sixth president of the United States, John Quincy Adams, served in the House for 18 years after his one and only term in the office. Now, Trump has not said if he intends on running for the House of Representatives, nor has he said he's going to run for president in 2024, although he's made a lot of hints in his typical style. Now, we patriots can do our part to retake the country and stop the globalists' Great Reset and Green New Deal agenda that puts America last instead of first. More to the point, Trump doesn't have to be in office to effect change. What he needs are patriots like you and me to work together to join forces and do our parts to take back our government from socialists like Biden and other career stooges in the establishment. Support this channel by sharing this video and let me know what you think in the comments. I'm curious what your thoughts are on all this. Until next time, this